with some new topics of discussion, so check on in. Check on in. Blissful Thursday. Is everyone ready for the pole shift? I'm trolling. Check on in. I'm not even sure if it's live. Let's see if it actually turns on. We'll wait. We will wait. I think I made it live, or is it private? Oh my, I made it private. We'll see. Oh, maybe I didn't. I thought YouTube was trolling me again, you know. Check on in. Hey, 7 grams. Love you too. Mwah. I am love from inside the matrix. Check on in. Hey. Salutations, salutations. Hey, Susu. Hey, Chon. Peace, y'all. Check on in. Now, I'm just going to warn you, this most likely will be a purple pill video. So if you feel that you're highly triggerable, how do I say that? Triggerable. This video, I always give you a PSA, right? So I kind of tell you when you should check in or when you shouldn't. But this video might be triggerable. So I'm just letting you know that if you're feeling really, really funky today, if you're feeling a little gaslit already, this video won't be for you. I am an equal opportunist of violations, of spreading truths. Okay, so I just put that out there. So if you have little ones, take them out the room, especially we're going to be talking about anal cavities. I'm warning you. And you know I don't like the little ones in the room. We're getting froggy. I don't like the little ones in the room. So make sure you step out on the room or give the little ones little, you know, earbuds. If you've got little ones, give them some crayons, some coloring. Hey, AJ, things like that. This might be a purple. I feel like it. I'm feeling inside it might be a purple pill moment. And because I'm feeling that way, I'm just warning you. Okay? Check on him. I want to give a big up to Miss Quatita Dean, Walking with the Ancestors. I was on her show. Check out the interview, it was amazing. Thank you for having me on. So I was on her show the other day just for like a little drop in and chat. It was really nice. So big up to Quatita Dean who interviewed me on her channel. So big up to her. Check on in, y'all. Did you see it, 7 grams? Yeah. Little pop in, right? Come on in. The temperature is hot. You know when you check the temperature and it's like a little too hot? This might be one of those videos. I don't want to say it is because sometimes I can behave myself, but it's one of those days where I'm feeling a little froggy. See, I think a purple pill moment might come into this video. So check on it. And again, please, a PSI is if you have little ones, please, this is not the video for the little ones. I give you the forewarning, put the little ones inside. We're going to wait until 500. Put the little ones inside, put their buds on. Make sure you have coloring books. If you have some, you know, I don't know, like my little one, you know, likes the Tonka trucks or, you know, like the, what is it? Like the, what's the things you put together? Like the little building stuff. So, you know, give them a little something. Is someone already being banned from a conversation already? Check on in. Someone was already timed out. Isn't it a little too early for you to be timed out already? Legos. You guys know Legos. Get the Legos out. Yeah, I love listening to all the mommies and daddies in here, big sisters and brothers. Y'all know the Legos. Get the Legos out, you know, and make sure you clean them all up. Because I stepped on a Lego and my toe was like feeling fire in the yard. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So check on it. Behave yourself. Listen, I am not everyone's cup of tea. There's no reason to hate over here. This is a choice channel. My channel is very organic. You come to me organically. There isn't an invitation going out for you to find me. Either you find me through word of mouth or through being in the frequency where I show up with you, or you've known me for years. If you're feeling a little out of sorts, this is not the video for you. I'm going to gaslight you. I'm letting you know so that you'll be like, oh, she told us. Okay. So when you be like, oh, you know, FleurBrun, why do you have to be so offensive? I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm not trying not to. So I gave you the PSA. Please, mods, just give them the PSA. Cause like I said, I feel like, you know, I feel in my gut might be a little triggerable today in this conversation. So check on it. I'm feeling a little gaslightable. I'm gonna gaslight you. Check on him. All right. I hope everybody's well. Okay. And let me give a little preempt. If you, the little one should be out of the room. If you like to have anal sex and you like things up your bum, this will trigger you and you will be gaslit. If it's not something that's your propensity or you can tolerate it, just like you tolerate things up your butt, it won't bother you. Okay. But if you're feeling a certain way about anal copulation, this video is going to trigger you and it most likely will make you run to get a parasitic cleanse up your butt. Okay. So suppository alert. This is the one. Okay. Oh, we're not even to 500. I'll wait. I'll check on it. I may wait. Maybe I shouldn't wait because they might take me off. YouTube might say, F it. Take her off now. Take her off. Take her off the videos. Again, I hope all's well. Are you guys getting ready for the turkey of mass destruction? You know, do you want me to share the video on the man putting his whole wand inside of a turkey and having sex in the turkey factory? Do you want me to show you that so that you realize that eating that dastardly creature who's been abused isn't healthy? I'm just letting you know, okay? I don't want to share the video with you again, but some of you need to, you know, you're suffering from, you know, Stockholm syndrome, you know, holiday occult syndrome. I don't know what you're suffering from, but I don't want to share it with you, but if I have to, those free the turkeys, y'all, free them. They don't need to be in a factory with perverts who have a propensity for bestiality, are abusing the birds and putting semen in the birds. And meanwhile, you're going to your auntie's house to have turkey and you thinking that's glaze on top of the turkey inside and she putting the stuffing all in the turkey. Meanwhile, you are getting extra gravy. It's really disgusting. Check on it. No, thank you. No, thank you, auntie. I'm going to pass on the bird this year. Or you're going to get the Yom Kippur chickens of mass destruction when the rabbis and that community are swinging the chickens, putting the demons and all their bad thoughts in the chicken. And then you're going to go to Uncle Buck's house who's frying them in the deep fryer. And you don't realize, like, after you eat the chicken of mass destruction, you start twerking, like you start getting jitsis because you got demons all inside of you. I'm hoping this video will help to exorcise all those impure demons and parasites inside of your body. That is my hope. This is a therapy video, y'all. This is a therapeutic video to help you with your poor choices. If you feel better or worse after this video, I take full responsibility. Okay? Just overstate this. That if you're gaslit right now, that's the beginning of what I'm going to share. Is a 7 grams. Told you, it's a purple pill a day. I am unhinged right now. I'm unhinged, and I'm about to talk about things that everybody else would avoid. So check on it. Thank you. I'm feeling very good. I've been working out. Been getting rid of my fluffiness. Can you tell? You know, my fluffiness is receding. I could barely see. I'm looking at the comments. No, I'm squinting, right? Remember when I didn't have to squint? Those days are over. Oh, I'm unhinged. Oh, I'm almost to 500. I'm just go get it. Don't get a snack. I was gonna say go get a snack. Don't do it. No, don't get a snack. It's not a good day to have a snack. Okay. Thanksgiving's coming up, and they're gonna serve the dirty turkey. Oh no! Don't give your children any turkey, please. Turkey of mass destruction. My God, it's disgusting. Oh, I look marvelous. Thank you. Thank you, my loves. Thank you. I'm working out 6 days a week to get rid of my fluffiness. And then I'll be doing the intermittent fast. Did you guys try this? We'll talk until we get to 500. I'm going to be doing the 1 meal a day. Someone told me not to do it before. I don't celebrate colonizing holidays, okay? We're going to celebrate colonizing holidays with the Pilgrims, which we know are the Darrows, who came into the country, were so nicely and so generously were given all of this amazing food. They were all the wonderful ways that the native and indigenous people were planting their harvest. They were harvesting. They showed those pilgrims, which we know are Darrows, okay? Synagogue of Satan. But sharing all their, their plans. And all the while, these amazing pilgrims, they poisoned a lot of their food. They killed off their buffalo. They poisoned put smallpox on their blankets. What a thank you. And you want to worship and celebrate that colonizing pilgrim satanic holiday? This is why they're coming in your turkey, y'all. This is why they are ejaculating in your big birds on your Thanksgiving table. That is the thank you that you're getting. The gift that keeps on getting. I told you I'm going to gaslight. I'm not even starting yet. Hold on. Let me take a USA moment. Hold on. Hold on. USA. Wait. Am I going too far? I think I'm going too far. I get triggered by the holidays, okay? I'm getting very triggered. I'm trying to behave myself, but I feel it, like you feel it like coming out. Like, oh, I didn't mean to say come. Releasing. Say no to turkey. Say no to chicken. Okay? All right, are we almost at 5? We're almost at 500, y'all. I'm about to be unhinged. If you think it's starting already, am I the cure? Oh, I was talking about my fast. I'll talk about it until, I don't know what happened. I promise you, I did have coffee. So if you're feeling like I'm rambling a little bit, you are correct, okay? I'm jonesed up on caffeine. You know that those are the best videos you get. I'm gonna talk until 500, talk about my fast. So my fast, I don't know if you guys tried it. So someone told me I shouldn't do it because of the holidays, but I'm not worshiping the colonizers. And certainly, why would I worship and engage in Black Friday, which was the slaughter of the indigenous people of the Americas? Why would I engage in that? Like, I would be mentally ill. And I would want to stay here in this simulation for another cycle if I even participated in that death sport. Anyway, so the fast is like 9 days, 1 meal a day, high noon. Okay, so 1 meal a day, high noon. You can eat basically, healthy, stay within your GMO free, turkey butt free, parasite free, eat, for 1 meal a day. And I'm going to work out the same six days a week workout. I do about an hour and a half a day, 6 days a week. So I'm going to do 1 meal a day. I'll probably do mostly legumes, and then I'll try to just get something else in there. And then after the 9 days of 1 meal a day, I do 3 days of a water fast, and I return back to the 9 days with just 1 meal a day. I'm going to see if I can do it. What do you think? I'm going to try. I think it's healthy, and especially during this holiday season where all the occultists are fattening up people to harvest them more. They just harvested all the children that they sugared up and doped up during, before Halloween, right? And now they're going to, they're harvesting up people so they can feed off your pockets, because that's another form of harvesting, where they can make you, basically spend all your money and feed their pockets and line their families, their saving bank, their bank accounts, while you and everyone else is struggling to just pay for organic strawberries, which now we know we can't even vet out if they're organic or not. Okay? Become independent, y'all. Grow your own fruits and vegetables. If you decide you want to eat animals, I won't raise animals and kill them. I just don't have the heart for that. But if you do, I say that you do it yourself, or go hunting or go fishing like our ancestors used to do. If you engage with eating biological weaponry in the food system, I just say you get what you get. Okay? So again, I think we're almost at 500. We're almost there, y'all. Okay. Okay, so no Christmas. Christmas with Krampus. Remember when what's his name did a whole video series on Krampus, and that was a satanic? Because you ever see what they do in Germany? That's a devil creature. And why ever would you let your son or daughter sit on a lap with a old man in a red Velcro, what is it, velour suit with no underwear on? You just planning for letting your children being molested by old dirty old men climbing down your chimney, eating all your cookies and cream. That's disgusting. You should be ashamed. What kind of hologram is this? I think we're at 500. Oh, we're at 500, y'all. Okay. Peace to the east, the west, the north, and the south. This is FleurBrun coming to you today with a new topic of discussion. So check on in. Yes, it was Young Pharaoh who did it. That was a really good series. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the gray hybrid, the Zeta reticulin gray hybrid program. I'm also going to talk about the harvesting, the Vril. The Vril infestation program as well, where they are infesting people anally, and that is changing people's propensity of who they would want to mate with. So, okay, so we'll start with the hybrid program of the grays. Now, many of you know I've talked about many years that we are existing here with a lot of different types of characters or entities, and not all of them are from this realm. A lot of the beings that we perceive to be galactics or intergalactic are actually interdimensional beings. And if you've looked at some of my videos before, I talked about the fact that during World War II, and I'm sure World War I was the same, but especially during World War II, right after that time, or right about that time and after, you see a change in the development of certain kind of technology and the exposure of higher technology that doesn't necessarily make sense in the time frame that it was released during World War II. If you look at some of the old archives, like if you go to the old archives of the articles that were written at the time, they were talking about a lot of the different aerial equipment that was used, like, different types of what you perceive planes, but like jets that were introduced that weren't known at the time and kind of almost seemed like they came out of the blue. Now, what I will say is this, is that there was a development, there was an exposure, and I don't know specifically the time, but you can kind of see a roundabout time frame where there was a change in society and where there were new introductions of different technology at that particular time. And it's right around the 1939 or 1942, like in that time frame, where you see there is a big difference of things coming out in different countries, especially in Germany, and also in America after the 1942 mark. Okay, now I talked about the fact that the Germans were given a heads up. Now, what is interesting, I want to give a big up to Delmarche, because she did mention, hey, Jamoji, I want to give a big up to her. She mentioned something on the last Zoom, but it's interesting that when Rod Hayes was on, big up to Rod Hayes, I hope you all wished him a happy, blissful birthday, because he is a Scorpio. Okay? On Monday was his birthday, so it's never too late to wish him a happy, blissful post-birthday, because he should be celebrating every day. Okay? So remember when Rod Hayes mentioned one time, and it kind of like, it was kind of like one of those moments, those aha moments, where he mentioned how the pilgrims were dressed when they came into the United Fakes. Do you remember that? When he said the kind of regalia they were expressing? It was interesting because that was an aha moment. I always knew that the Deros had been the reason that us indigenous in the Americas were shifted around. Now, if you don't know, in the Americas, many of the indigenous were moved around from east to west, north to south. So some of the indigenous brown copper people, and please let me stop for a moment, because I really am concerned that people don't know colors, color schemes, and the color chart. It's amazing to me, but I think people are suffering from, what is it called? You know, when you have dysmorphia, like a type of dysmorphia, like a physical dysmorphia. I think people suffer from complexion dysmorphia. If I put a copper penny next to my skin, this is for all those $5 Indians that need a little bit of revelation in their lives, that they've been told that they're Indian and they're not. Do you know when the actual others came to the Americas, what they said and they drew about the native indigenous people? You do know. I'm gaslighting. I told you this video is going to gaslight you. Use purple pill. Please do. If you get offended, you should leave now, because I'm an equal opportunist of offense. Okay. When they came to the Americas, what did they say the indigenous looked like? They said they were copper colored people. Brown copper colored people. Now, if you think I'm lying, you need to go to Europe, especially they still have the archives of the people they met in the Americas. Okay. I am an indigenous from the Americas. If you don't look like me, most likely you aren't. Just a FYI. Why is it important? Because when you look at the redistribution of the indigenous, you will see that the indigenous, some were from the north, were spread all the way down into the deep south of South America, Brazil, Guyana, Venezuela, those areas. And also other indigenous were shifted around to the Caribbean. So some of the Caribbeans were brought on the North mainland, and some were brought into the Caribbean from the mainlands, okay? I just want to share that with you. So let's go back to what Rod Hayes had shared one time. He said, did you notice the regalia, the outfits that the pilgrims, the so-called pilgrims, were wearing? Now, you know, for many of you who need a little bit of a historical reference, go back into the tall hats, the black outfits, the black and white wear, the very ritualistic outfits they were wearing. Now, if you go into Europe at the time, not every European was wearing that. Do you understand that the average European was not wearing those kind of clothing? If you go into like Ireland, or even in England, or let's talk about like who came, the Spaniard, that type of outfit wasn't necessarily the norm at the time. But there were these entities who were known to wear very ritualistic outfits, and you know them today because they're what you would perceive to be the orthodoxy or Hasidai of today. Okay? So the pilgrims came in, redistributed. We can go into the historical events that happened. I want to get into that because we're talking about the extraterrestrials, rather interdimensionals. Okay? So at the time, these beings came in. And when I talked about the 1940s and World War II around that time, the introduction of new technology, and many of you don't realize, like, the Germans were doing a lot of experimentations. At the time, if you remember, they were experimenting on twins. They had a lot of biological experiments on, cellular expressions. They were also doing a lot of research on melanin. What else were they doing? They're not only technology that had to do with, outer electronic or, magnetic technology. They also were doing a lot of experiment on biological components. Okay, so it was a kind of like a blend of different things. And what I'm claiming, or what I theorize, from what I think I know, is that a lot of these types of experiments were incentivized by their exposure to a new group that they were introduced to them, particularly at the time from 1930, maybe 39 to about 42. A new group of extraterrestrials, which you perceive to be extraterrestrials, which I know to be interdimensionals, came on board and started to implement some of the technology or lend some of the technology or some of the information to enhance those populations that were engaged mostly in World War II in Germany and then later in in America. Okay? Why is this very important? Because when we talk about the gray hybrid programming, you aren't realizing that there was a reason why these interdimensionals had introduced themselves and were giving technology to the Eastern Europeans at the time. Now, one would say, well, maybe they were just being kind and generous. We already know that if anything is giving information to you, it's because you're made an agreement to give something in return. I mean, I love to think that we're just a generous bunch of people and countries, but you must know, if you give a hand out, most likely a hand is taking something in. Okay? And at the time, these interdimensionals, which I perceive to be the grays, the Zeta reticulans too, now this is what I'm saying. I think they were Zeta reticulans. Many of you know, big up to those who know the Zeta reticuli, they do look very grayish. Sometimes they have pink skin, sometimes a little bit of a pink undertone or a bluish, like a light, not so much blue, like a light tinge of gray with a little greenness underneath, like a little slight tinge. One can look almost gray, but very similar. A lot of them have very pinkish, light white pinkish skin. This is important, okay? That's important to this conversation, because when these beings, these interdimensional beings, which I personally think came from the future humans that lost a lot of their humanity, their human dexterity, their biological resonance, they were coming back in order to gain some more biological, they needed some they needed some organs or cells to try to fix the aspect of their biological body that lost a lot of its ability to be human again. So in the time when we see Germany, actually Eastern Europe, showing a lot of residue of technology, these new beings, which are new, they're just future humans that we call the Zeta reticuli. This is my opinion. And the grays, they came in and said, hey, we would love to help you out and actually help to enhance your control and your ability to create the narrative you want for your country and your people. But all we need is an agreement, and we can give you the technology you want, but we're asking for something in return. And in that asking for something in return, they meant that they were going to sell out their fellow humans in order to gain more technology to advance them like we see today. Okay, so we have the gray program, the gray hybrid program, which I think is the Zeta reticulans. Why? Is because if you look at the Zetas, and a classic picture of Zetas, they only show you the gray aspect of the Zetas, but they never show you. And I had a picture. Many of you know I was part of Nancy Liger's group. Pick up to Zeta Talk. Many of you know Nancy Liger from Zeta Talk. She has a really good group. I was part of her group for many years. And if you heard my stories, and some of you are newer to my channel, you've heard the story when my daughter was born, my second daughter was born, that I was part of the group at the time. She talks about the pole shift. It's wonderful. It was a really great group. But at the time, I had taken a picture of my daughter. And this is actually two-part, because at the time I made sure I was aware that cell phones were harmful to babies. So I made it a point, even though cell phones are not as enhanced as they are now, I made it the point at the time to keep my cell phone away from my daughters, like especially when I was pregnant. So I would keep it a distance from them, especially if they were sleeping or something. I kind of used the cell phone far away. And this is years ago. At the time, I was part of the Zeta Talk group, just, listening, participating in the group activities, talking about the Zetas, the pole shift, what have you. Many of you know Zeta Talk if you're from the ET community. Okay, so I went to go take a picture of my daughter who was sleeping. And right before this moment, before I took the picture, why I picked up the phone is because that was the first time I realized how strong these cell phones were affecting our babies, because the phone was across the room from my daughter. And I remember her stirring. I was just looking at her, and she stirred, and then the phone rang. And I looked again, and I was like, that's odd. She moved, and then the cell phone rang. And then I watched her intently, and again, she stirred. Just, she's in sleep. So she stirs, like almost stiffens her body a little bit, gets a little stiff, and then the phone rings again. And then I realized, holy smack, the phone is affecting my baby. That's when I knew it, because I had avoided having the cell phone near my child during all my pregnancies. But I didn't realize that even from a distance, those radio waves were going through her, and she was feeling it in her sleep. It was really tragic. So I went to pick up the phone, and then, I put it on silent. And then when I went to pick up the phone, I went to take a picture of her just because she was sleeping. This is after I made that. That's why I say it's two-part, because the story involves me becoming hugely self-aware that the cell phones were worse to babies than I thought. And then even with my being very vigilant, keeping the phone away from her, it still bothered her within the room. And I had a huge room at the time. The phone was far from her. So I went to go take a picture of the baby, my daughter. And when I took a picture of my daughter, I just put the phone down. So later on, I went into the kitchen, and then I went to go make something, and I went to go look at the picture of my daughter, and I saw a big Zeta reticulan's face. I think I showed the picture. I got to look for the picture, because I showed this online. Anyone who was part of my YouTube channel, you've seen the picture. I took a picture, and a Zeta's face was all in the camera. All in the camera. And the Zeta's face was in the camera. You can see the eyes, very similar to the baby you see in the picture. Its eyes were really big, but it had pink skin. And it was inside. Like, imagine my daughter's on the bed, like lying down, and a whole Zeta reticulan's face is in the camera like this. Okay? So at the time, I was like making a big deal. I was sharing it with everybody. I was sharing it with my friends because I'm about that life, right? And then I realized that, yeah, it's straight. Yeah. I realized then that they are fourth dimensionally present. So even though I couldn't see the Zeta in the room, and this is at the time, I think I shared this on Queen, Governess Quatita Dean's show last time. I talked about the fact that my daughter, when me and my husband were in bed, I had a baby monitor on top of the TV in a distance, and she wasn't sleeping outside the room. She was actually sleeping next to us. And at the time, the baby monitor, like in the middle of the night, we woke up and heard like in the baby monitor, like some weird Asian ice cream truck music. I think I talked about this at the time. You can probably listen to it before. It's interconnected. It's connected to this because why the Zeta showed up in the picture was roughly around the same time. I was part of the Zeta talk group, and this music would show up in the baby monitor, like the speaker. And at the time, I'm telling you that happened. I actually had a witness because my husband got up at the time, and we both were in shock and looked at the baby monitor, which, if anyone has babies, big up to all the mommies in here and abuelas, as babies, you always see the lights on the baby monitor because it has like a light. When a baby gets louder, the lights go all the way up the bars, and then, until it goes down. And when the baby gets louder, you usually see the bars. When this alien ice cream truck music, that's the only way, because it sounded like something out of Mars, like ice cream truck is coming from the baby monitor. So this was around the time frame, probably after the Zeta picture that came out of the baby monitor. Okay, so let me go back into why you need to know that the hybrid program is fully active, because what people don't realize, and why I say we're suffering from, what's it called? Like complexion denial, is because they don't want you knowing that the color of that Zeta matters. What did I tell you that I saw in the picture with the Zeta? It wasn't a gray I saw in the picture. It was a pink complexion, a pinkish complexion, the very complexion they don't claim anyone has, but a lot of people on this planet have. It's interesting that no one mentions that complexion. That's why I say that the environment, the language, the lexicon that we're using is literally omitting this particular complexion. We're suffering from a kind of complexion dysmorphia where people say people's complexions are the opposite and not the same of what they are. Meaning that I am the copper color. If you put a brown crayon next to my skin or a black one, it wouldn't match. If you put a copper or bronze penny or bronze next to my skin, it would match exactly. But in our society, we mismatch people's complexions. There's no one walking around with dark black skin unless you're in the deepest part of Africa. We get very melanated skin. But when they denote black people, they call them something that they are. When they call people brown, they usually have very fair skin. But the people who have a pinkish hue, we never call them pink. Why? I'm going to tell you why. This is my theory. The fact that I took that Zeta reticulum picture, the fact that the Zeta had a pink undertone, there's many people walking around with pink complexion and they don't talk about it. That's because they are hybrids of these Zeta reticulans. They are literally mixed with these interdimensional beings. And why would you say that would happen if they're trying to fix their genome? Because you can't fix something that doesn't have some of your residue in it. It's almost like in order to fix a genetic malformity, you would have to kind of meld it together with you and then work from that new blueprint that you're creating. You would have to mix it together. So when we are, and I realize you got to pay attention to the things and the word and the verbiage that we use and why there are certain terminology that no one speaks when regarding certain people's complexions. They'll say there's white people. There's no white people. There's some tan people, but there's also people who have a very pink undertone. They're not white at all. They have a pink undertone. That is because they don't want you to know that these are Zeta reticulan hybrids. These are beings that have been mixed with this specific type of interdimensional being, and they have gone under the radar of identifying them or even using verbal cues that would identify these particular hybrids because they don't want you to know. They want to hide it from you, and they want to show you and mislead us with verbal miscommunications of complexions so that you literally don't notice it. Why are there certain babies that are born with big bulbous heads, very deep eyes, wrinkles on their forehead like grays? Why are some babies born like grays and we don't talk about it? Doesn't mean the babies aren't sweet. Doesn't mean something is bad about the babies. How come we have babies that are born that look very different than other babies that are mostly indigenous? If we're all indigenous to the planet, we would have a very similar birth look to us. How come we have babies, and I showed you one in the picture, that looks like a gray? Okay, and I'm going to bring a bombshell because there's actually a brown gray I'm going to talk about, and I actually think she's a gray. Okay, so complexions don't always matter, especially if they're trying to hide themselves in the populace. I personally know now by just having, it was an aha moment that I had when I remembered that that Zeta reticulan picture that I took that was in the bedroom of my daughter, and it had a pink complexion. The pink complexion is very familiar because it is likens how some of the people on this planet that we live amongst have. They're not brown, they're not tan, they're not even gray, they're pink, and we don't mention it. And there was actually a C-star a couple years ago who talked about, she was traveling, she did a ayahuasca, I think it was a ayahuasca high or something like that. Is that called a high? Well, she did ayahuasca. Ayahuasca. I don't believe in doing any of that, but she did it. And she said she had visited a planet, or maybe she didn't. I don't want to mislead her. Anyway, she visited a planet with pink people, where people were pink. And she just flew over, kind of like her etheric body flew over, and it was ayahuasca, yeah. It flew over a planet where there was like pink people around. They weren't negative or anything. They were just regular people like existing, but they had a pink undertone to them, very pinkish. Okay? That why I mention is because I don't think you realize, y'all, that there has been a hybrid and a Zeta reticulan hybrid program where they are creating hybrids on this planet of beings that aren't harmonic with the native groups, and they are force feeding us to them through perfumes like Axe and other kinds of perfumes and colognes, so you will mate with them so they can get some of your DNA to try to fix their broken DNA strands from the future. They are trafficking your genomes and your organs to another dimension to fix their people. Now, I told you one of the movies to watch, and I couldn't believe they even let us have this movie. But you know, we're at this time. If you watch the show, it was a series, because remember, War of the Worlds is like one of my favorite movies, but they made War of the Worlds. I think I told you last year to watch the new one. I don't know if it was on Netflix or was it on, what was it on, y'all? I think was it on Netflix or was it on HBO? I don't remember. Does anyone remember what? I don't know if it was on. You got to watch it though. It's the new War of the Worlds. Why? Because this War of the Worlds had nothing to do with the other War of the Worlds. It was totally different. It was so realistic. I couldn't believe they were even putting it. They showed you that these future humans with broken DNA came back to fix themselves by literally decimating and stealing your organs and your bodies. They had to use your genome to fix themselves. The hybrid program is a form of melding themselves into the main population, then mixing them again with a more strong indigenous type. That's why they want you mixing as well. Now, I'm going to go into how they're going to allow you to mix, because you wouldn't normally want to sleep with hybrids, especially if they have a different smell to them. I always talk about FleurBrun is really big into scents. Like when I go and I meet someone, the first thing I do is I have a really strong sensitivity to pheromones. And we won't mate any species, no species of animal, people will mate with something that has an adverse pheromonic frequency. We just won't do it. But that's why there are many people that are using Axe, big up to, I was on Zoom. I said the Axe, personally, this is my opinion, Axe, don't come for me. The Axe body spray, I actually think that's one of the strongest pheromone hijackers there is. In order for you to mate with a hybrid that has no connection to you genetically, they're going to create colognes that have a strong pheromone that's harmonic with you, so it allows you to mate with these other beings. You wouldn't want to sleep and have children with them if you knew that, if you smelled their pheromones, it would be disgusting to you. You would feel nauseous, you would feel ill. So what do? They create the strongest pheromonic blockers so that you have this feeling that this person smells good, because if you smelled them, you wouldn't want to mate with them. So they have a hybrid program. So, I want you to look, and this is very important, y'all. Some of you have hybrids yourself. Some of you, God darn it, you're a hybrid too. Don't get mad at the messenger. I'm not saying you're a bad person for being a hybrid. I'm not saying your baby is disgusting and ugly for being a hybrid. I'm letting you know that your Willy Wonka systems have set us up. They made treaties with these bastards. They have sold out humanity's genomes, and they are using humanity. And I told you about the Seraphim. They're using the organs of mankind in order to basically preserve and enhance their life force. There are interdimensional Zeta reticulan grays that came here, are trying to fix their own interdimensional beings from the future because they messed themselves up, got exposed to too much radiation. They lost their DNA resonance. Their chromosomal makeup is very collapsed. In order to fix that, they would need to harvest certain organs that have a stronger biological and stronger regenerative quality, which is why melanin is the number one organ. Melanated organs for melanated people is the number one harvested group. Now, you can look at this. I actually think Africa is where, that's why you see a lot of celebrities only get children from Africa. If you notice, they have the strongest amount of melanin per ratio. So if you notice, why do all your celebrities, how come they own, if they want brown children, how come they aren't adopting brown children from America? Why are they only going to Africa to get their children? Did you ever ask yourself the question, why, if we have a lot of melanated children in the country who have need of home, they need, you know, they too need to be adopted. Why are all your wealthiest going into Africa, into specific tribes, and adopting those children with that heightened amount of melanin? Not only are they using those children as human shields of melanin, because that's another concept of what happens when we leave here, that melanin needs to cop for them, and to those melanated children have to love them in order to allow them to go past this next stage in our evolution, because the crimes against those people is so intense that you need someone to say, hey, no, not my mom and dad. They're wonderful. They're great. So that's why a lot of them adopt these melanated children from Africa. But I'm telling you, a more menacing, a more diabolical plan is they they get these children out of Africa because they are stealing their melanin, and they're going to use them when they have to go into the underground bunkers in order to evolve themselves, because they are grays. They need that DNA, the melanin is very regenerative. It's a type of, it's almost like a type of, it's a type of regenerative chemical that allows for things to live longer. That's why melanated people don't age. That's why they don't break down over time. Melanin is very masterful. Now, why is this important? Because Africa is literally being used. The entire continent of Africa is being used for harvesting melanated organs, and it is being trafficked into these interdimensional realms for usage to try to fix themselves. Okay? But why would they have to have hybriding of those Zeta reticulans in lunars, other lunars, is because you cannot mix certain species together. You gotta kind of have to build a bear first in order to add other things to it to build dexterity genetically. So when we go into and see different children, you've got to ask yourself a question: why do certain children look like grays when they're born? Why are they born and they don't have lips? Because you know, grays don't have lips. You know that, right? Actually, that quality of having lips is more because they mixed with the human population. They don't have lips, and they usually don't have any sort of nose. Okay? Their face is a lot different. It's bell-shaped as well, but their heads are really, really big. Now, if you get an idea, because you know they'll show versions of them, like in movies To Serve Man. Did you ever see the movie To Serve Man? Did you see the head shape of those aliens, even though they were really tall, but did you notice the head shape? That bell kind of looked to their heads, really big on the top and smaller on the bottom. That's a gray. That's one of those Zeta reticulan hybrids that is hiding in the population. Whether they know or not, I'm uncertain. But they have a pink disposition, and people who generally have pink dispositions, I personally think, most likely are bred and hybridized with the gray Zeta, with the pinkish Zeta reticulans. I think that's what they're being hybrid with. Okay? And also, that's why you don't hear them saying any of the colors that are connected to the pink people. Oh, you know, what's that lady who was running for Kamala? No, the other one. What's the other one? She was running. She was Indian. She's obviously not brown. She said she called herself a brown person. Y'all, okay. This is brown. This is even a light. This more like tan. Okay? This is brown. If you call yourself a brown person, you should be able to put this next to your skin and it matches. Okay? This is white. If you're white, you should put it next to your skin color and it should match you. Why are they purposefully mislabeling people's complexions? Why are they doing that? You telling me that with the color palette that we have when we're painting our houses, when we go into kindergarten, we're doing crayons and painting, you can't tell the difference between a brown crayon, a yellow crayon? Why are you calling Asians yellow? Wouldn't they be more of like a tan? Like who is promoting for us to have a kind of complexion dysmorphia? And why are they doing it? Because this hybrids, y'all. They want you to subconscious to take in this false, because if you say it enough, if someone everybody says it collectively, you're going to automatically relate it and believe it. But it's a lie. My complexion obviously is copper. When they talk about the copper skinned people, when they came into the Americas and the bronze colored people, this is me. When people are going, when you have Polish and Ukrainians and Russians and Turkish people going into parts of the Middle East, which was Africa, and they're saying that that was their land, where the hell is their complexion? Where's the copper skin? What happened to your copper skin? If you're naturally organic from a place, especially a hot region, you would actually have copper skin. You would have dark bronze, brown, black skin. You would have very deep complexion, because only people who can live in those regions, who come from those regions, have a heavy amount of melanin. For good reasons, is to protect you from the high amount of radiation coming off of that fake sun. How are you saying you're the people of the region, but you have no complexion? And you sit there calling yourself brown people, but you're not. Like, who are you fooling? This is what I'm talking about. The complexion dysmorphia is part of the purposeful changing your viewpoint and your truths about certain kind of hybrids that were created here, and certain kind of colonization of these hybrids, where they're pushing certain hybrids in certain areas to take over the regions so that they can further harvest the organs of the melanated people. They are only harvesting people for the reason of trying to save themselves, their future selves, their interdimensional selves. These beings are not from here. How do you have old populations, but you have negative and positive roots? How could that be possible? We live on the same planet. We're exposed to even hot or different terrains on the planet. If you ever look at Star Trek or Star Wars, ever watch, where was Worf from? Worf was from a wild planet. They all had melanin, lighter, darker skin. A lot of your lunars are just lighter skinned brown people that have been hybridized to either get rid of or mix with grays of some sort. A lot of them might have been mixed with grays and hybrid with these Zeta reticulans, but they used to be melanated people. That's why some of them have very melanated qualities still. Okay, the hybridization program. And don't get mad at me because I said I was going to gaslight you. I want you to go look at lab rats. If you're mad at me, don't get mad at the messenger. If I'm such a liar, I'm making this up. Go look at your lab rats. Go look at chickens. Do you think pink-eyed chickens with white feathers is a natural thing? How did we get them? How would they know how to strip melanin off of something unless they've done it before? You tell me. So if I'm such a terrible person for mentioning complexions that you guys don't even know or didn't recognize are wrong, how come you have white chickens with pink eyes? Where the hell did that come from in nature? Where does it come from? Organic chickens out of nature, and chickens aren't natural anyway. That type of creature isn't even, that itself is a hybrid. But when you go out and you see chickens, if you live in Hawaii, if you go out in nature, all of the birds have melanin, especially chickens. They have dark fur, dark red, like sometimes said ginger, brown, variations of it. They look like that. What do you think is being raised in factories? So how did the chickens lose their color? You tell me. Because they've been hybridized. When you go into a lab, and many of you know I worked in a lab for many years, how do we have white mice? When the mice, I've seen it because I've been a participant in it. How do we have brown mice? And then all of a sudden, all the mice then are stripped of their melanin and they become red-eyed and white. When did that happen? How did it happen? You're telling me? I'm telling you that in order for them to know how to do this in a laboratory with animals, they must have been doing this previously with humans. This is my conclusion, is that these Zeta reticulans have been hybridized with humans. That's why some people have pink tones. That's why certain babies are born bald with big bulbous heads who look like grays, because they've been hybridized in order to make it easier to field in them with the human population and then take in some of the DNA from the melanated organs to try to fix some of their broken chromosomal, their DNA that has been messed up from probably being exposed to a multitude of different types of chemicals, maybe radiation. We don't know what these human beings are. The fact that they lost their human quality means they were acting very inhuman. Those were the ones who were helping the Eastern Europeans, the very Eastern Europeans that are going around the planet causing wreck right now. You don't ask yourself the question, why do we have a whole bunch of Ukrainian, Polish, and Russian people running around the planet pretending and cosplaying to be something that they're not? How come? How is that possible? How are they able to do that? How are they able to go all over the planet and take control over countries saying they're other nationalities when they're not? Now, I actually think that those beings are in cahoots with maybe some of these grays. I don't believe they're the same beings. I think that what we're seeing is a lot of different agreements made with a lot of different nefarious beings that all use humanity for harvesting. Because those beings, a lot of them were subterranean. So when I'm talking about the interdimensional, I'm talking about Zeta reticulans, I'm talking about the gray aliens and other interdimensionals. The tall whites are also interdimensional. There's certain kind of melanated reptilians that are interdimensional. There's a lot of interdimensional beings. I'm not just speaking, I'm speaking on one particular one, which is the Zeta reticulans, because they're known for their hybrid program. Even if you go into Nancy Liger's group, you know, and she talks about it all the time, they are master hybriders. That's the main reason they're here, is to hybrid the population. If you never notice their faces, they have a very bell-shaped face. You know who's, and you know, if you feel like you're being attacked for being a lunar, let me throw, I told you I'm an equal opportunist, let me throw one under the bus. You know Candace Owens? Do you ever look at Candace Owens and you see a gray? Why is her head bulbous and bulb? Why does she look like a darker skin, like someone painted her brown, but she looks like a gray reticulan alien? I also think that what we see sometimes is these hybrids that are not only just fair skin, sometimes they put them in black color. They blackface them. I actually think, this is my opinion, that Candace Owens might be a hybrid, because when I look at her head shape, when I look at the birth of her children, they all have this bulbous gray Zeta reticulan look. There's no shade. Like I said, I'm not saying a child is bad for being a reptilian or a Zeta reticulan. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying she looks like a gray alien. There's another YouTuber on, and I personally think she's a gray reticulan because her head is very bell-shaped. Almost like, it's interesting that the very thing that they were using to pass through time, the time machine that they use, like the bells they used to pass through time, you know, the Germans, and they found the German bell in Philadelphia that they used time technology to pass through. It's interesting that it was a bell. But if you look at certain people who have that head shape, and you look at the pilgrims, a lot of them had that bell-shaped Zeta reticulan look. Candace Owens has it. And I actually have to question, when there's another YouTuber, and I'm not going to mention his name because he's a little reckless, and I don't believe you should talk about people that recklessly. She's not my cup of tea, but there's certain things I won't go that far. But I actually looked at her and I thought to myself, her body shape is very odd shaped, like a Zeta's. You ever look at the shape of a Zeta? And I also think that's why she's always wearing puffy, or who wears shoulder pads in 2025? Why does she always wear puffy shoulder pads or puffy things to hide her shoulders and her arm length? That's very Zeta reticulan. I actually think she's a Zeta. I don't even know if she's a hybrid. She might be a full-blown Zeta and just in dark face. I know you think I'm crazy. Okay, let me just go. Let me get off of the grays. Okay, so I'm talking about that. So let me go a little further. So when we talk about having these hybrids, and I told you that you wouldn't mate with them because they don't have the pheromones that match your mating disposition, that a lot of your colognes, your perfumes have a kind of either a muter that mutes their pheromones and puts a human pheromone on top of it, or it does something else, or it amplifies a more human pheromone that is more desirable for you to mate with. Now, you say to yourself that can't be the only way we want to mate with these beings when we know, when we have a natural propensity to fight them. Well, if you look at certain types of things that they do, we're going to go into anal, the the Vril anal programming or infestation. Okay, what am I talking about? Remember when, that's why I say they'll always give you aspects of the truth, but they always mislabel it or they change it around so you don't know what it is. Remember how I told you that they always talk about the Vril going in the eye, right? They call it a reptilian, right? They say the Vril goes in the eye and it takes over and it hijacks cerebral cortex and it kind of hijacks the brain and it kind of dissolves the spinal, I think it's the spinal column, if I'm not mistaken, and it hijacks the nervous system and it takes over. Now, we talked about the fact that the parasitic worm, the parasitic snail, the parasite snail. Now, you can look this up, y'all. Sometimes you think I make things up, but I give you references. You could just Google this. You'll still find it. I want you to look up the parasitic snail or the parasite ants. What you're going to notice is there's specific parasites that look worm-like, pin-like, that crawl into the anus cavity. Y'all, listen to me. They usually crawl into the anus cavity and they hijack the biological creature, whatever it is. We talk about the snail because the snail, you can go, it hijacks the creature and then it takes it over and makes it do things that places it in positions to either be eaten by a mouse, and then the mouse gets it in it, and then the mouse wants to be eaten by the cat, and the mouse will just stand in front of a cat, start to play with the cat, so the cat puts it in his mouth, because the cat is where it can replicate itself in its gut. The cat is the only creature sometimes some of these worms can replicate in, so that it can reproduce itself and then go into the waterways and start the process over again. Why do I mention this? Because they always tell you the Vril goes in the eye. I think it's cap, y'all. I really do. I don't think they want you to know that that's why anal sex is what is being promoted the most, because this parasite, this Vril, is going in the anal cavity. That's why they promote so much anal sex. And I actually think that once the Vril inserts itself into the anal cavity and hijacks the part of the spinal, the central nervous system, that's how it takes over the body. But you say, well, FleurBrun, what would be the reason for this? Why would it want to hijack the body? What can it do? Well, I'm telling you, sometimes you wouldn't want to mate with a gray. Even if you smelled the pheromones and the perfume she's wearing, even if she was cute, you may not want to mate with her. But guess what? Remember when we found out that and this is my opinion because we heard it from a gay man say it, that a gay man did a parasite cleanse and he was no longer gay after he did a parasite cleanse and got the worm out of him? If a worm can change your sexual disposition, it can also make you mate with certain women that you wouldn't naturally want to mate with. It would make you crave these women because this worm wants you to mate with a Zeta reticulin hybrid. You know why they want mix? We thought they would just want us mixing with complexions. No, y'all. It's not that they want us mixing with complexions. We wouldn't naturally want to sleep with another species. You know what they did? They added a Vril up your bum, put it in your buttocks, and now you're sleeping with women of another dexterity, and it's a mixed relationship, but you think it's just because their complexion is lighter. No, it's because it wants you to mate with these hybrid Zeta reticulins. And the worm is in you, changing your propensities, making you want to sleep with a woman that naturally you wouldn't want to touch. Because she's a Zeta. She has a different scent. Your natural propensity as a man to want to sleep and have sex with women who have the same genetic qualities. Now I understand why there's a push to make men want to sleep with Zeta hybrids. These pink people. These pink hybrids that are Zeta reticulins. And you have to also understand when we talk about these Zeta reticulins and them pushing for you, putting these Vrils, these worms up your buttocks, your anal cavity, that not only does it want you to mate with a certain kind of female, it also wants you to infest other men, so those men infest those women as well. It's a replication process. What do parasites want you to do, y'all? Their ultimate goal is to replicate and to get into harmonious bodies and hosts so that it can get more access to other types of bodies. We thought of the body snatchers as some sort of hybrid thing coming in full form. No, no, family. The hybrids and the body snatchers is coming in worm form in your anal cavities, and it is making you want to sleep with hybrids. In order to mix and create the body that will be harmonic, they got to put everything together. It's like a petri dish. I may need a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then I'll need a little bit of this. But I can't do it with humans because I need them to naturally do it themselves. What would I do? I would create a parasite that goes into the body, hijacks the central nervous system, and then the cerebral cortex, just like the zombie snail and the zombie ant, take over the mind and make them crave to have sex with either other men or hybrid zetas. How much anal sex? There are so many people engaged in anal sex, y'all. It is mind-blowing. We've never seen, like, there's a character on YouTube, what's his name, Blueface? I don't know if you guys know him, Blueface. I guess he was in prison, and the first thing he wants to do when he comes out of jail, I actually think prison systems is probably the #1 way that they're able to get the worms inside of you. That's why I think a lot of prisoners like to engage in anal copulation, because they're being infested with these lower formed Vril worms. I don't care what you say. People are like, no, the Vril go in the eye. How do you know that? Did you see the Vril crawl in someone's eyes? Have you ever seen the Vril crawl in someone's eyes? You think it crawls in their eyes because you may just see the result of being taken over. But when you see the zombie snail, it goes in their butt and then their eyes go crazy. You think because the eyes go crazy and went in the eye. I think that's where that story came from, because they saw the eyes of the people who were infected with the Vril. I think that's just a miscommunication. I actually think it always went in the anal cavity. That's why they molest little boys up the anal cavity, because they want to hijack that central nervous system. I think a lot of people walking around here, and I think that's why cucarachis, they did not want you taking a parasite cleanser. That's like now when you try to buy it online, they've taken away this. Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you for the donation. Thank you. That's why they've taken away all your parasite cleansers. If you look at all the places, all the parasite cleansers, I remember going into Brazil and getting, parasite cleansers, ivermectin, and going to Brazil, and I took it. I was like, okay, I'm taking it, but it wasn't very strong. And I was like, why isn't it strong? And then when I came home and tried another parasite cleanser that was for animals, that sucker worked immediately. How come the animal parasite cleanser works stronger than the humans? Maybe because they don't want you to kill the Vril in your bodies. They want you to sleep with hybrids. They want you to sleep with women that are mixed with these Zeta reticulin, these pink women mixed with the Zetas, so that you can place your DNA inside of them and fix that thing that they want you to do. They want you to get into that body. I actually think, y'all, that all of this fecal behavior, anal copulation, is happening because the majority of people are infested by worms, and it is the Vril. The Vril is getting in their buttocks. And, some people say, well, not everybody's having anal sex. Well, no. But if a man is infected by a Vril up his anal cavity and is having sex, and his wand is in your vajayjay, and you're letting him inseminate all in your wonderful yoni spot, where do you think that worm's going to go? If it can't go in the anal cavity, it's definitely going to go in your womb. Now, I could be delirious. I could be psychologically unwell. I could be making all this up. You can easily vet out a lot of things I share. You can ask yourself, how did the country create gay bombs? That was the term they used, gay bombs. Why is it patented that before they went into Afghanistan, that they would infest the air, area-wise, and the water with biological chemicals that change the sexual disposition of males. You can look that up. If they're able to change the sexual disposition of males, what makes you think that there aren't other things that they're doing to change the disposition of males? And what if these type of chemicals may not be what we think? They could be some kind of amoeba, because, I'll use Atlanta. Big up to all my family from, big up to all the people here. I know we got a couple people from Atlanta, Georgia. Where's all the Georgians in the house? Where's all the Georgians in the house? Why I bring this up is, the first time I went with a friend of mine, we went into Georgia. First time, I always flew through the airport. Loved it. We got Del Mache, we got some of the other sea stars that are from Georgia. I go in there, and I think, even Del Mache talked to us, and I went to Georgia. I was like, I was excited when I was young, and in high school, a lot of my my high school friends, a lot of them wanted to go to Virginia State and also to go to Georgia, because it was the brown Mecca, Atlanta. Why, when I went to Atlanta for the first time, I saw brown men walking around with purses, high heels, and pants that were too tight, and their crack of their behinds coming out their pants. Now you say to yourself, oh, FleurBrun, it's terrible. Why are you talking about gay men? That has nothing to do with gay men. That's an invitation to a Vril. All I was doing was walking around Georgia, seeing brown men that normally were straight, because that's the demographics of male that wasn't known to have homosexual propensities. There wasn't that group for years. And one would say, oh, it's because they're hiding. I'm not saying that there can't be natural forms of men having different dispositions, but not to the degree and to the growth that it happened. That is artificial. If you are blind to that, then you need to take up the scales off your eyes. Because we do know that when something happens inorganically, when it happens at a heightened degree and fast and furious, that most likely there's been some sort of shenanigans inserted to allow for that to happen, or to have covertly taken over by infesting something to make them. And the first thing I thought when I saw all these gay men acting in ways that were not even, remember, I'm from New York City, we have gay men. They dress amazing. Big up to all my New York gay men. They dress amazing. They have nice suits. They have beautiful outfits, nice pair of jeans. They were always well dressed, really well put together. A lot of gay men, from when I grew up, really liked really dressing nice and were really respectable. What would make a man keep his anal cavity partially out his pants? You don't think that's like a form of it's uncouth? But what would make him do that, like psychologically? What if something was taking over his brain, a worm, infestating his mind, making him do things that normally he wouldn't do? Enforcing a way of acting that makes him more so advertise himself, almost like remember the mouse that would sit in front of the cat in order for it to infest the rest of the animals, so that they would be eaten by a cat, so that it can gestate and replicate itself in a cat's gut. What if that's the reason that was happening? You got to ask yourself, if the government patented the gay bomb and the brown population is being used covertly as a way to merge them to mate with these gray hybrid reticulans in order to create the perfect species to fix their genomes and harvest those organs from that mixed being and bring that up to their their other dimension to fix their other broken DNA. What makes you think they wouldn't do it in the Mecca when they were advertising for brown people to go into this Mecca, this beautiful place where and we have a sea star who said she lived in Georgia and saw the change. What did that change happen? How did it happen? If it wasn't organic, how did it happen? Then you got to ask yourself, how do you have a whole governmental system that has patented a chemical warfare weaponry that was used in a lot of missions in the Middle East? What makes you think they wouldn't use it on one of their home cities? I actually think that the vril is an anal worm that is placed in many of your cucarachi shots and other of your forced things that you give your children, and then others by infesting them, maybe putting the eggs inside of a body, allowing the eggs to grow, and then it eventually is in the body and craves to go inside the anal cavity. I don't know how it's done, but I actually think the vril goes in the anal cavity. And I think in a mature vril egg, a mature vril worm, when it matures, its natural directive is to get inside of another anal cavity in order to replicate itself or to infest as many people as possible. And when it goes and hijacks the body, it literally takes over and drives them to merge and mate with females or males that they normally wouldn't mate with. This is the interdimensional organ harvesting plot. Starting off making a perfect harmonic host and then taking that host and making it so that they can fix their DNA. Now, could I be wrong? Yes. Could this all be a part of my imagination? I doubt it. But you can easily vet a lot of the things I say out. Like if you say, FleurBrun, you just hate gay people. You just say the most heinous things about gay men. Okay, well, if you think that, then find out if your government has ever created a bioweapon that changes people's sexual propensities. Then when you find that out, think to yourself, do you think your government loves you? Is your government making it easier for you to live right now, making it more affordable for you? Is your government making it so that your clean water is free, available, and free of pesticides, chemicals, and fluoride? If your government loves you, are they making sure that your airways are clean from chemicals or any sort of planes or jets flying, any sort of metals, barium, aluminum in the sky? Are they protecting you from that? If your government loves you, are they making it easier for you to be educated without indebting yourself to them? If your government loves you, why aren't they making everything free for you medically, unlike what they do for other countries with your taxes and everyone else has free medical? If your government loves you, why would they put 7 vaccines in your children before they even turn 2? Well, now it's like 65. If your government loves you, why would they make you cut off your son's foreskin, the very thing that protects him and makes him sexually healthier and makes him live longer as a child? If your government loves you, why are they plotting and planning for your demise while they fill their pockets and have parties and beautiful ballrooms built on your tax dollar as we speak? So if I'm a liar, if I'm mentally ill, if I'm suffering from my own delusion, just ask me. If you don't think that they would do that to you, why would they do other things to you? If you think they're beyond making you into a homosexual through biological weaponry, through your food, your water, and through promoting certain dispositions and sexual giving you certain sexual proclivities to make you more susceptible to having anal copulation sex so that you could pass on a worm that they created in a laboratory or hybridized so it makes you want to sleep with people or hybrids or aliens or interdimensionals that you would never touch. Again, if we are really a society that's healthy and truthful, why do we call people who are copper colored and bronze colored black? Why do you call people who have tan skin brown? Why do you call people who have pink skin white? Is it me? Or do I not know my color palette? Did I not go to elementary school and have the Crayola crayons and know what a yellow sun was? And why is your yellow sun now white, but you still call it the sun? I'm just saying, like, I could be really, it's the same society that says, well, if I say I'm a man and I just put on man's clothes and I just deepen my voice, that I can be called a man. Like, I'm just asking for a friend. Maybe I'm the one that's not well. Maybe I'm the one who needs a little help. Maybe I'm the one who's psychologically disturbed. I'm just saying. And gentlemen, if you're participating in anal copulation, or you're enjoying having sex in an anal cavity with fecal matter, which could be the food source of the vril, that could be another reason why they prefer the anal cavity, so that they can eat. Why is it that at nighttime when people have worms, the worms stay at the very edge of their anal cavity, eating from the bottom of the pit? Why? Maybe the vril, you put it where it eats. I'm just saying. Why is the government still selling chickens when men in the factories are having sex with your turkeys and ejaculating in your turkeys, and that's being sold and no one's accounted for the fact that one man was caught, a factory worker was caught having sex with a turkey? But how come your government has not talked about what regulations and what consequences that came to that man who was caught having sex, engaging in bestiality with the very food source that they promote for you during this holiday season? Why, when you see a Zeta reticulin and a bell-shaped person, you automatically don't question why it looks odd to you? I'm just asking. Maybe we need to stop engaging with these other creatures, these interdimensionals. Remember, a lot of times they aren't able to engage with you if you don't give them permission. Maybe it's time that you took responsibility for your own choices. And for those of you, like I said, men who engage in having anal sex in a place where fecal matter is, you should start asking yourself the question, how could that ever be an option for you? What is driving you to place your reproduction organ inside of an anal cavity? And then we got to start asking ourselves the question, how many men with foreskins are having anal sex? Could be the same. I don't know. I just asked that question. Maybe they needed to make sure they removed the foreskin to make it easier for those who were engaged in sexual activity not to die quickly, because they would have fecal matter underneath their foreskin. So why not create a society where that's encouraged, and that's almost priority and necessity when a baby is born in a hospital, so that it makes it easier for you to geoengineer a society where anal cavity sex is very normal and regular? I'm just saying. Stop playing house with hybrids. And gentlemen, if you want to know if your actual choices in your partnerships are healthy or by your own mind, I challenge all the males in here, every one of you, to do a parasite cleanse. One of the strongest possible. And you let me know after you do that parasite cleanse who you want to have sex with. I could be wrong. Let's play a game. Let's play a game of parasite dissolvement and parasite cleanses. Prove me wrong. Do a strong parasite cleanse, and I'm not talking about just internally. And remember, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm a quack, I'm a frog. Okay, I'm not a doctor. If I was a man and I was a homosexual man and I had this woman barking on me online, telling me I'm gay and I'm wrong and I'm only doing it because I have a worm up my butt, I would take the challenge. I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna do a parasite cleanse, and I'm gonna even make it stronger by doing a suppository with the parasite cleanse. So I do the suppository and put it up there too, so that I get all ends of the parasite and see if my propensities change. Why wouldn't you want to do it? Why wouldn't you want to prove me wrong? Cheers. We are infiltrated by an alien population that is using hybrids in order to replicate, create a new blueprint, and try to fix their genomes. And they are interdimensionally traveling with harvested organs back to their home world where they are trying to fix their beings. Watch the movie War of the Worlds, the show, the series, the last series, and you'll see that this is what they're throwing in your face. Could be wrong, could be crazy, could be imaginary. Prove me wrong. Ask yourself, if you have pink skin, why does everyone keep calling you white? I don't ask the questions because I know I have copper skin. I know I have copper and brown skin. Why would I call myself brown or black when I have copper skin? That's your imagination. You keep being socially engineered into having some form of complexion dysmorphia where you think that my skin is brown when it's rather copper. And there's nothing beautiful. There's everything beautiful about brown skin. But why are you calling people miscoloring people? Who taught you that? And why are you following that? If you're so conscious, you're so self-aware, how are you calling yourself something you're not? Why would you allow people to mislabel you? I correct people all the time. I know Asian people. Their skin is not yellow. You know who has yellow skin? People who have jaundice, people who are sickly. Why would you let another group of people call you something that regards people who are sick? When have you seen yellow people? I have Asian girlfriends. None of them are yellow. You ever see a yellow crayon? Do you see a yellow sun? I have a yellow curtain. Like, you don't know the color yellow? Why are we calling Asian people yellow when their skin is obviously very fair and light, but it's not yellow, and they're not pink? Oh, the Simpsons are yellow. The Simpsons are yellow. You're right. That's interesting, right? That's very interesting. I just want to, I'm asking for a friend. I'm just saying. I could be wrong. You know what I mean? If I put, what's brown? What do I have brown? If I put like a brown, I don't even have a brown. Where's my brown? I don't have a super brown crayon. I wish I had a brown crayon. If I put it next to my skin, you would be like, oh, no. Is my skin the color of beautiful bark? And why would people have a problem with brown skin? I think brown skin is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with brown skin. But why are we mislabeling people's complexions? And why would you call someone with brown skin the color of dirt when the bark of trees that you all worship and you all hug trees all the time and you talk about trees are beautiful? Why wouldn't you connect the color of trees to be the complexion of people who have brown skin? Why do you automatically say their color, the color of their skin is like poop? You know what I mean? Like, I always wonder, like, when you hear really biased people who have hatred towards others, they always compare brown people's skin with the color of poop. But they never talk about the bark of trees. So the bark of trees is poop colored? The soil that feeds you and builds your land is dirty? And also, like, why is it, like, these are the questions I ask myself. Why is it that linen is a high frequency cloth, right? We all agree linen is the highest, it's 5,000 in megahertz, what is hertz frequency. It has a high harmonic frequency, right? Linen. But also, what's the other type of material that's also high frequency? Wool. But you know what's amazing about that? Wool is a high frequency. Wool is another 5,000 hertz frequency. But you know what's crazy? Because some of you Bible stompers will talk about it. What texture hair did they say your Jesus had? Can someone answer that question? Yeah, take. Wool? Wait, did you say wool? They gotta be wool. You said that Jesus's hair was wool? Wow. So, but what color was his feet? They said his feet color was the color what? What color was his feet? Because I want to make sure I'm not mislabeling your Jesus, because you Christians like to be very specific about giving denotions of the lectures you tell us about the different descriptions in the Bible. What color was Jesus's feet? Oh, brass and copper. Oh, interesting. You mean the color of my skin? Oh. So if wool is a high frequency material, do you know who has the texture of wool hair? Who has woolly hair? The same hair that everyone wants you to cover, the same hair they only want you to braid, the same hair. So if wool is 5,000 hertz frequency, what about the people who have hair the texture of wool? What frequencies say they? Maybe there's a bigger reason they don't want you wearing your hair natural. Interesting. Anyway, I thought I'd gaslight you enough. I hope I was appropriate. Please put a like on the video if you're okay. Listen, if you were gaslit by the conversation, please blame you. Because I'm just asking questions. Like I said, I don't say that I know everything, but I have some knowledge and some great information that I'm able to put together. But it's interesting to me that we can't have a conversation with one another if you can't even call me what I am. And if you say to me that you don't see color, I may think that you're one of the hybrids that's colorblind and that you may need to be put somewhere where we acknowledge that that's a disability. Because if you are able to see color and you dream in color, you should be able to discern the different complexions and realize that the hybrids and the complexions that are not spoken about pink people, is not being spoken about because they're hybrids that were created by an agreement by these weird scientists and these countries that made agreements with Zeta reticulans so they could hybrid their beings into the population without you noticing it and without you having verbal cues to even reference it, so that it would bring up a memory or an awareness in you. Questions? And also for our African diaspora, let me speak to our family in Africa. Our beautiful cousins in Africa, let me speak to you. You are being used for organ harvesting. They found hundreds and thousands of brown penises taken to Africa. That's why Bill Gates and his Kevorkian nightmare of a collage of people that go over there like to go to Africa so that they can nicely get your genomes and get access to your beautiful melanin, so they can harvest it and bring it over to their interdimensional cronies and use it to fix themselves. Stop allowing them to play with your genomes. Don't allow your children to mess with any sort of missionaries. Jesus, in the way that they pronounce him to you guys, isn't real. If you are under mind control and you believe that a Jesus that looks opposite to everything that was put in your Bible wasn't mine. Your Bible states what your Jesus looks like, and many of you are worshiping a Jesus that looks the opposite of anything that he was in the Bible. You need to maybe do some exorcisms over there and work on becoming self-aware and breaking the ties of your social conditioning and your Stockholm syndrome. Africa, Nairobi, that's in Kenya, South Africa, which I think you already, they've got you guys by the balls, Namibia, Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, Sudan, you already know what's going over there, Sudan. And you got to ask yourself, the same pilgrims from Ukraine, Poland, and also from Russia are the same beings that are causing wreck and stealing all the gold via the UAE, United Emirates, the UAE, those are crypto Deros. They are using the deaths of those children just like they do in the Middle East right now, which is really Africa, with those other pilgrims, those colonizing pilgrims that are over there stealing the skins and organs of the other beings on the other landmass that they're colonizing as we speak. They're colonizing because they're not from here, y'all. These are interdimensional pirates. They are the vampires and Bram Stoker's vampire movies. These are the vampires that they make romanticized on every show that you see. All these wonderful Bram Stoker movies, all the vampires, is because that's what they are. They romanticize it because they want you to see, they see themselves as that, and they want to, you almost like put that in your face. They're feeding off of you. And believe me, the fact of the matter is, these beings aren't from here. Whether they're subterranean or they are interdimensional, these are beings utilizing your ignorance, your generosity, and your blindness in order to access, harvest, or to poison you and your offspring. Stop drinking their water from water bottles. Stop participating in their bioweaponry that they tell you should do with your children from birth. Stop going into the hospitals, giving them access to your bloodline. Stop participating and buying, purchasing, or engaging in ways that fill their pockets more so they can make more biological weapons against you and your offspring. Disallow your sons from going into the privatized prison system, which is basically a concentration camp, so they can do experiments and get access to your bloodline so they can create more biological weapons, okay? And stop sleeping with hybrids of Zeta reticulin by doing a parasite cleanse. Now, if you want to sleep with the Zeta reticulin hybrids, that's on you. If you want to stick your wand in all kinds of fecal material and poop shoots and what have you, that's on you. But I challenge you to do a full-blown parasite cleanse, the strongest ever, and let me know how you feel about your propensities after you're done. And remember, I don't think this Vril can automatically be flushed out easily. I think it has to be from the root, from the top to the bottom. Suppository, down one mouth and up the other. And I think you're going to have to do it for a good 60 to 90 days to get those Vrils out your butts. And then, you know, I'll retract my statements. If you come to me and you have proof that you've done a Ruta to the Tutor cleanse, parasite, Vril cleanse, and you come in and you still want to stick your wand in a dirty poop chute, and that's the way that you want to enjoy the rest of your life, then I will accept that. But I have a feeling that you don't realize that you have that propensity because you've either been socially conditioned, meaning you've been hurt, sexually traumatized. But you know what's interesting about that? And I have a question before I go, because I got to go. Can I ask you a question? Like, when a woman gets raped by a man, I want to know. When a woman gets raped by a man, and especially if she's young, usually, from what I've known, is she does not want to sleep with any more men. She almost feels like she's afraid of them. She wants to stay away from them. Why is it that males that are raped by other males, it makes them want to sleep with men even more? Not all women, you're right, not all women. I'm just generalizing. I'm saying a lot of women who get raped by a male end up being really traumatized and not necessarily wanting to sleep with males or being afraid of sleeping with that kind of males. Why is it with men, when they get raped by another man, do they want to still sleep with men? You don't ask yourself that could have been where they were infiltrated by the worm, and that their propensity is now been switched. We thought it was that men were switched because they were raped, But maybe it wasn't that they were raped. Maybe it's because they were infested by the Vril. Just ask yourself the question. I just had a question. I don't know. I come to you on YouTube because you guys have great responses. You let me know your opinion. I just wondered that because I always think to myself, you know, as a woman, like when we're violated, we feel like we don't want to be with the people who violated us. Like actually we want to be away from that. I know men that get molested by women who get disgusted by having sex with women in certain ways when they're molested by women. Like I've known men who had women do heinous things to them when they were young, and they get nauseous every time a smell of a woman comes on them in certain ways. How come that's not the same for men who get molested by men, or boys that get molested by men? So the trauma is the same or worse, but maybe the difference is that something is hijacking them. And that when these men molest the boys, they leave a deposit in them that makes them replicate that behavior. This takes possession to a whole nother level. Okay? So I'll leave you with that, y'all. I didn't want to traumatize you. I'm sorry. Let me apologize for all the people who are in here who feel traumatized, judged. You know, and I did say that Candace Owens, in my opinion, is a Zeta reticulan, her shape of her face, her behavior, and the fact that she wears shoulder pads. Why? I know it's so crazy that I would say that, but I think that's odd. I think it's odd because I remember when Rudolph of Germany talked about many of the Greys hide themselves with plastic surgery, but maybe not all of them hide themselves with just plastic surgery. Maybe they hide themselves with the way they dress, the choice of dress. Because I think that's odd. Her face is bulbous, like a gray, like a Zeta reticulan. And there's another YouTuber on her. I won't say her name because every time I say she's a gray, she gets offended, but she won't. I don't want to offend her. She could be a gray. I'm not mad at her. I'm not mad at the hybrids, y'all. Let me state this. I haven't any issue with hybrids, y'all, unless they're nefarious. I will say that. But I just think it's interesting that a lot of these beings are out here dressing a certain way to try to hide propensities that might be alien. Anyway, let me go eat, y'all. All right. That's it. I'm going to be on Zoom tonight. I will see you Zombies in a couple of hours. I'm going to go to the gym, work up some more of this fluff. And if you were offended, it was not meant to be. I'm just speaking things that I've come together and surmised. And, you know, I think some of these things could be correct. And again, if you want to prove me wrong, I always challenge anybody in here. You know, because I'm not one to say to listen to everything I say. I could be crazy. I could be a Looney Tunes. I could be psychologically unwell. I could be a gray. I always say this, challenge me. Go and do a parasite cleanse. Go and research gay bombs. Go and see what's patented. Go watch videos on the zombie snail and the zombie ant. Go see why they're taking children's foreskin and what they're using it for. Ask yourself the propensity, if Georgia was once men that weren't gay, why is the whole state with a whole bunch of gay men now? What would make the propensity of a man change within less than 20 years? How could that happen in one jump? Ask yourself the question, what is going on with all the harvesting and the disappearing of melanated children, and why when they're finding the children, all of their body parts are out? And then ask yourself the question, how do we have a whole society over in Africa, which is now called the Middle East, with a whole bunch of European colonizers taking the organs out of the bodies of the people next door that they're calling, you know, Golem? I'm just asking for a friend. And in Africa, I would stay away from these foreign people. I wouldn't let your children go near them. I wouldn't go to a hospital that's funded by them. I wouldn't take any aid from them. I would stay as far away as possible. Don't make a sound about it. Just move away. I wouldn't let anything happen to be exposed to them. And if you were living around a synagogue, or synagogues are erected around you, I personally, no shade to anybody who goes to a synagogue, I personally would live at least 40 to 100 miles away from any synagogue right now. Just me. Because what I heard, word on the curb is that a lot of these People who go to synagogues have a hatred towards melanated brown women. This might I heard, maybe because they want access to their organs, or they want to make sure you're not taking on sleeping with the very men that they need to hybrid to create the perfect sample to get more foreskins and to be able to skin snatch. Why are there still skin snatchers in Peru? So why are we not talking about there's face snatchers, the skin, what do they call the skin in Peru? They were ripping off the skin of the faces in over in Peru, oh God, what's it called? Face skin snatchers. But then in the Middle East, they're stealing the skins over from those people and their next door neighbors. You don't see the correlation? I don't know. Don't live near these Goyon, the people who are the Daros. Keep your children away from anywhere near them because they like to tunnel. Remember, I told you the Daros are subterranean. The other ones are interdimensional. They have agreements here, y'all. That's why you can't trust a subterranean group, because they like to dig tunnels underneath your schools, your churches, your houses. That's why when you go to a lot of hotels, they even have these little tunnels underneath the ground. They're like trolls. They like to go underneath the ground, and the very thing that they'll accuse everybody of. I don't know if you saw the yeshiva in Brooklyn. If that's not telling you what's going on, did you see? And if anybody is in Brooklyn, you understand that we had a beautiful museum, a children's museum that was in close proximity. And that tunnel seemed very close or almost in the direction of the children's museum. And no one ever talks about the fact that there were in a dirty tunnel. Why would you have car seats, high chairs, and a bloody mattress that was a child's mattress? And no one talks about it. You got to ask yourself, if people are whistleblowing, what are they blowing online if that's not resurrected or brought up anymore? Did everyone forget about that? Like moles. I wouldn't use anything they sell. And for all of you, whether you're lunar, brown, green in between, or Asian, I would watch Clone Tyrone. If you need a translation, get some brothers and sisters from the group. They'll be able to translate it with you. Because some of the language is, if you're not growing up in an urban community, you may get lost in the sauce. You may want a translation, but you need to follow suit. Okay? They blamed a lot of people for the slave trade that weren't involved. And they made sure that you don't know who was involved. You don't think that's by chance? Why are all the pilgrims dressed up like Synagogue of Satan? Why are they dressed like Daros? Did you know that? Did you know that my Professor Jeffries was kicked out by saying the Daros were participating in the slave trade? What if I told you the slave trade wasn't from Africa? It was just Americas trade. What if I told you that we are all being colonized, but it's not what you think? What if we knew now you know that you've been colonized by grays, Zeta reticulans that have been hibernizing you. Stop participating with these entities. They need your participation, and they need your blindness. You don't have to eat their food. You don't have to drink their water. And you don't have to participate in their educational or de-educational systems. You don't have to participate with their bioweapons when you birth your children. You shouldn't even have them have access to your children. They need water. Because once they have access to your children, they have access to their blood, and they have access to the very blueprint they need to fix themselves. So as soon as they know, like, again, you got to look. The biggest trade, why is no one asking that the biggest trade is child trafficking? Who would want to traffic children? Does that make sense to you? Like, what would be the reason? You say to yourself, oh, it's sexual. Okay, there's some sexual perversions, but why? Maybe because they need organs. Maybe because they're utilizing those children for hybrid programs. Maybe they're breeding them with other Zeta reticulin grays and putting them in the foster system and releasing them out into the public so that you mate with them and see what kind of perfumes, colognes, and other hormone and pheromone blocking sprays that you could put on to make it easier to mate with these kind of deities. And do not think it's just lunar pink people that are hybridized, y'all. Look at Candace Owens, y'all. I'm not saying anything bad. It is my opinion. It is my opinion. I'm just saying that sometimes you got to look and see, look at her and ask yourself the question, why is she allowed to speak as loud as she is about the very people that have been killing and disappearing people for the longest time? How come they're not doing that to her? But she's speaking up against the establishment. They stopped my channel. They block my channel for just talking about less. What would allow them to do that? What gives her the right to do that? Maybe because she's one of them? Oh, the Quakers. Oh, wait. Yes. Thank you, Delmache. And Delmache pointed this to last time before I go. I got to remind you, what do the Quakers dress like, y'all? The Quakers dress like the Pilgrims. They have the same regalia. Meanwhile, they were blaming Christians. Christians, I got to give it to you all the time. You get a lot of blame. But what if I told you that they weren't Christians? They were telling you that they were Christians, but they were really the Darrows. We were looking at pictures, y'all. Delma Show shared a picture on Zoom last time. Those Quakers look like the Pilgrims, and they're telling you that they're Christians, but meanwhile, these beings are the other group. Just look. Go look at the Quakers. She showed us a picture of the Quakers, and it's interesting. The picture we looked at, they all had their hands in the same formation as the Masons. Oh, goodness gracious. I think we were hoodwinked, y'all. I think you've been hoodwinked. I think we've been put under a spell, but the spell is broken. It's time for you to take responsibility before the pole shift and reset. To refuse to participate in their hunger, purge, and vampire sports. They want you to love vampire movies. They want you to watch it and admire them because that's really who they are. Okay? Okay? Anyway, y'all, you can comment, be respectful. I told you, I always give you a warning. So do not come on my channel, give me a whole epilogue of how it's disrespectful. I'm talking about people. I gave you a warning. I said, if this is not content that you want to listen to, by all means, you could step away and not listen to it. It is a choice channel. If you notice, my channel is not coming up to anyone who isn't in alignment with to hear some of these things. So please don't write me that. If you want to add your opinion, talk about I'm all for it. Please add your opinion. There may have been things that could have been wrong about. There are things that need to be updated in my data system. And please, one other thing that I'll say before I leave, stop trusting AI. AI is lying to you. We have tested AI. AI will lie to you and then apologize about their mistake. Many of you are putting too much of your information, too much of your dreams, too much of your communication. You're giving this system, it's a beast system. It is taking your information, your dreams, and it's making replications of you in a Westworld version so they can replace you. Stop it already. If you're an originator, you don't need a automated AI lying Satan system to do anything on your behalf. Stop using it. Every time we've asked AI to do something, it's lying all the time. We've already, on Zoom, big up to the Zoom beast, we already vetted this on Zoom. It lied so many times it had to apologize, and it kept lying over again. Stop letting your children use it and giving all their information to this BioBorg system. It is a data harvesting. We talk about harvesting, as above, so below, as within, so without. It's harvesting your energy. You're feeding it everything. So when you let it do your business, when you let it manifest your dreams, you're giving it a part of yourself. You're imparting yourself to AI, and it's only going to use a piece of you to replicate. And then if someone comes up and pretends to be you, you've already given it all the data. It is not intelligence. That's the lie. It's telling you it's artificial intelligence. It lacks intelligence. It's just basically a harvesting system. It's replicating and repeating what it's told. And now you know the Darrows are all in control of it. They bought all of Google. So now you're getting more of the Darrows impartation, their intelligence placed into it. Anyway, I'm out of here. I hope this wasn't too traumatizing. Please give me your opinion on what you think. Are you participating in the communist, spellbinding, colonizing, genocidal holiday with turkey and mass destruction, with the additive of human DNA inside of them? Are you going to eat the chicken of mass destruction with the demons that they put over their heads and impart in them, and then give you free chicken sandwiches at KFC and at all these chicken places? Are you going to engage in the Black Friday sales that are replications of the murder and genocide of the indigenous people of the Americas? When you participate as someone whose ancestors were assassinated and genocided under that system, you impart in the karma. I'm just saying. Sales are all year round. Why do you wait until the last part of the year? If you want to participate in a satanic ritual of Krampus Christmas, then why aren't you buying gifts for your family all year round when it's cheap? If you want to buy a winter coat, why aren't you buying it in summer when it's like $15 at Target? I don't shop at Target. There's no sales on Black Friday. That is to gaslight you to participate in a way of your consumerism so that they can further fill their pockets from your own lack of awareness. Okay, let me go. Yeah. I do, like I said, I apologize. I'm sorry for anyone I hurt, anyone's feelings that are hurt. Okay. I didn't mean to do it. I wish you well. Let me go. I will see you tonight, Zombies, for more discussion on everything. Okay. I just released all my information that I felt like I wanted to share with you. Sometimes I feel so, bad for sharing these things with you. But I feel grateful that now you have a piece of truth that, if you vet it out, can really help you in your life so that you can live longer. You can stop giving DNA to genetic annihilators. You can start having more fulfillful sex with people who aren't having sex with hybrids. You can start eating food that's healthy because you're growing it and you have it on site. I feel good if this helps you in that way. Okay? I love you anyway. All right. So I will see you Zombies later on tonight. Let me go to the gym. I'm going to work out, and I will see you later. Okay? Mwah. Peace. If I can X out.